Hello YouTube, my name is Tyler and this is my February wrap-up. So if you're new to my channel, welcome. My wrap-ups tend to be pretty quick. I don't typically get into a lot of detail about the books because I vlog weekly and I talk about all the books I read in a week in depth in those vlogs. So weeks 1 through 3 should be up already. Week 4 will be posted after this wrap up. So if any of these books are something you would be intrigued to hear me talk about more in depth, you will have to go find the vlog. But I do put chapters in all of my vlogs with the book titles, so hopefully that will make it easier for you to find the vlog you're looking for. So I read 15 books this month. Those books are... I read Sweet Tooth's Volume 3 through 6 by Jeff Vandermeer. Let's see, I think most of those are like 3.5. That got rounded up to 4. Sweet Tooth Volume 5 was a 3-star, and Sweet Tooth Volume 6 was a 5-star. That one had me bawling my eyes out. I listened to The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett, which I gave 4 stars. I read The Night Eaters Volume 1, She Eats the Night by Marjorie Liu and Sana Takeda. Gave that 3 stars. Listened to The Anarchist Handbook by Michael Malice. That was 1 star. Read American Sonnets for My Past and Future Assassin by Terrence Hayes, 4 stars. Listened to Servants of the Damned, Giant Law Firms, Donald Trump, and The Corruption of Justice by David Enrich, which I gave 3 stars. Comfort Me with Apples by Catherine M. Valente, which I gave 2 stars. Moonwalking with Einstein, The Art and Science of Remembering by Josh Four, 3 stars. White Oleander by Janet Fitch, 4 stars. Spare by Prince Harry, 4 stars. You Just Need to Lose Weight and 19 Other Myths About Fat People, 4 stars. Oh, that's by Aubrey Orden. And Royal City by Jeff Lemire, 5 stars. So I actually read quite a bit of Jeff Lemire this month. I am like crooked, so I'm gonna better. So those are the 15 books that I read that are counting towards my Goodreads total. I did read one other book that was Out in the Valley, which was a collection of personal essays and stories about being queer in the Shenandoah Valley. This was published by the local LGBTQ center, but I just didn't rate it or count it, partly because it's not on Goodreads, but partly because it just felt too personal and too localized for me to comfortably rate. So yeah, so technically I read 16 books. Of those books, 5 were audiobooks. So again, kind of keeping up with the audiobook a week. However, I'm probably gonna, I talked about in my vlogs, I'm probably gonna slow down a little bit on audiobooks because I'm feeling a little burnt out. I say that, but everything that I have on hold currently is an audiobook, and Hellbent just checked out to me an audiobook. So we'll see if maybe just listening to the audiobooks I want to listen to will be enough to kind of get me out of my audiobook funk, and then I can go back to just finding random audiobooks to listen to. But we'll see. I DNF'd 4 books this month, which was 1 more than I did in January. Of those books that I read, 14 were from the library. 1 was one of my physical TBR books, and then I had 2 extra library books. That Out in the Valley book I got from the library, so I just have it as an extra. And then I also checked out a DVD from the library. I'm not counting that in the main number, but I just like made a note for myself, just because I think it would be interesting to kind of track how much stuff I'm taking out from the library, how much use I'm getting out of it. And I mean, at the beginning of this year, I'm really getting my tax dollars worth of library books. I am using the library. However, I still did not read a Toni Morrison book this month or a book by an Indigenous author. I really hope that changes in March. I have Tread on Feathers by Rebecca Ronenhorst. I was really hoping that would check out to me in February, because I know I put it on hold in February. It's a pretty quick, short audiobook that I was hoping to read in February, but I'm still waiting for that. So I'm thinking about it. I have some stuff planned, either in April or May. I'm going to read The Roundhouse as my second quarter buddy read. So that will count for one of those months, but I definitely need to read either a Toni Morrison or an Indigenous author in March, because I haven't been very successful. Okay, so those are some big stats. Let's talk about my TBR. My TBR, where does it sit? At the end of January, I had 124 books on my Goodreads TBR. That is now sitting at 123. And I read or removed 6 books from my Goodreads TBR. So most of those were read. I think one was a DNF. So keeping things tidy. It's still higher than I want it to be, but like I'm starting to come with terms like it's just gonna be a big list of books for the rest of eternity. But I still like to focus on making sure I'm reading the stuff so it doesn't wither away and I forget about those books, because I know I forget why I put them on my TBR. So if I keep focused on reading those books, it's less likely for me to forget why I put them on the TBR to begin with. Hi, kitty cat, rubbing your face on my book. And for my physical TBR, I went from 17 books to 16. And I read or DNF'd 2 books off that. So I DNF'd Between a Rock and a Hard Place, and I read White Oleander, which was a physical book I had. But I also bought Tiger Cat, or not Tiger Cat, who are you? Max, please lay down. But I bought a book that I added to my TBR. I bought Sloanham Woods 9 by Daniel Barbin Levin. There was a Hulu docuseries that came out about the Sarah Lawrence cult, I believe is what they were calling it, where a classmate of these kids that were attending Sarah Lawrence, her dad got out of prison and kind of started to run their lives, and became very abusive and bad. It was a very bad situation. And it was probably one of the most intense docuseries I have ever watched. It was very, very intense. So one of the people involved wrote a memoir about it, and kind of helped guide the documentary a little bit. And so I bought the book and I wanted to read it. So yeah. Those are my TBR stats. As for ratings, you know, it was a pretty good month. It was 3.5, like right on the nose. So last month was 3.5 stars also, but it got rounded up. So it was like 3.46 or something, and it got rounded up. And it felt like a good reading month. I mean, the most books I read were rated 4 stars. And I know some of those were 3.5 rounded up, but like, you know, it was a pretty good reading month. And I had another 2 5-star reads. So there is that, which means I should pick my favorite book of the month. I think White Oleander, even though it was not one of the 5 stars, I think White Oleander was definitely my favorite read. I spent the most time with it. I had the most fun with it. Whereas my 5 stars, Sweet Tooth, it's kind of hard to say that's like my favorite read of the month. Like, it really made me cry my eyes out, and in context of like the whole series, yeah, it was 5 stars, really had a great time with it, but it's not something that I'm like raving about or a new favorite. And the other 5-star was also a Jeff Lemire. It was Royal City, but that was a 4.5 rounded up. And it got rounded up because I thought the art was beautiful, like just absolutely beautiful, like considering buying my own copy, but not like a story I'm necessarily going to be thinking about. Like, I talked about in the vlog that it was like a 4-star story for me, but it got rounded up because the art was just so beautiful. Like I couldn't not give extra points for the art. So like White Oleander is just like the thing that sticks out to me this month as like my favorite read. And then the Anarchist Handbook, the only 1-star, definitely my least favorite read of the month. I had such a bad time listening to that. So yeah, I think that's all the things I usually talk about in my wrap up, just kind of flipping through, making sure I don't forget anything. Oh, for the unread shelf, I only dealt with one book that fit the February prompt, which was Courage, and Between a Rock and a Hard Place was the book that I was going to read for that. I ended up DNFing it, so not a great month for my unread shelf challenge, but like something fit the prompt, and it's off my shelf. So yeah, March is enough, and I have no clue what I'm gonna do for that. I looked through all my Goodreads books. Nothing has enough in the title. None of my physical books have enough in the title. It doesn't like really trigger any sort of vibe or feeling for me. So like for comfort, I was like, oh, making a more comfortable city. So I did Walkable City, and then I also did a book with the word comfort in it. Courage is like really easy, like stories of bravery or doing something hard. So like Between a Rock and a Hard Place, you know, he ended up having to cut his own arm off. And even though I didn't finish it, like, yeah, that takes courage and like strength. So I really don't know what enough will be, and I think I might just have to play it by ear and see if anything that I'm reading off my TBR through the month kind of fits the vibe of enough, like once I finish it. So yeah, I don't really have any plans for that. Yeah, and I finished all the books that I was reading this month. I'm not carrying over anything into March. So I'm starting with a clean slate at some point today. However, I do have to go run some errands, and I have a doctor's appointment. So I have a feeling it's probably just going to be Hellbent that I start today, because it'll be easy to listen to while I do other stuff. So yeah, that is my February wrap up. If you've read any of these books, leave a comment. If there's anything you think would fit the enough category prompt, leave that in the comments, because I am drawing a blank. And yeah, I will talk to y'all next week when you will see the final February vlog, which will be 4 books, the last 4 books of my read list. So 19 Myths About Fat People, Royal City by Jeff Lemire, what were the other 2? Spare by Prince Harry, which I really like have a lot of thoughts about, and Moonwalking with, and White Oleander. So those 2 books, Spare and White Oleander, I really had like things to say about. So and that was, White Oleander was my favorite book of the month. So you have that to look forward to. Yeah, otherwise I will talk to y'all later. Bye!